Welcome back to the Team Bandit Gang Beginner Series. Assuming you've been watching the videos up to now, you likely know the basics of the game and you've probably even chosen your favorite faction. If you haven't, we'll go ahead and link you to the 2 previous videos where you can go over some of the basics. This episode, we are going to tackle some frequently asked questions that you may have. Now, we're going to divide these questions up into a few different categories. We're going to talk about competitive Gwent play. We will talk about the resources that you will be using in game. We're going to talk about actual gameplay as well as community and just more overall Gwent related questions. First off, let's jump into the competitive scene.
Okay, first of all, I would like to know, how competitive is this game?
How competitive this game is really depends on how you choose to play it. There are a variety of different categories you can play on ranked. You can simply play casual games, you can play versus the AI, you can play memes, you can really make this game what you want it to be. Now, a few things you can keep in mind are the fact that, first off, while within the game, ranks 1 to 3 are probably the most try hard. Now, ranks 1 to 3 are usually players who are pushing to get into pro rank and are playing meta type decks. Once players get into pro rank, they're a little bit more open to being flexible, having to play different factions, so variety tends to increase. You also have the option of playing in lower ranks where meta decks are a little bit less prevalent and you can bring a little bit more of your fun types of lists. On top of ladder and in-game play, you also have the option to attend both official and unofficial Gwent tournaments. You can check out the Gwent Discord, follow your favorite content creators and teams on social media where you will have access to different events that go on that you can then participate in. Some are very serious and may even have a cash prize, and a lot of them are just for fun, encouraging you to play different types of lists, different meme lists, and different combinations. You can check out the official Gwent tournaments on masters.playgwent.com.
Let's say I want to take this seriously and Gwent better. What determines my position on the ladder, and what does my MMR mean?
So you want to take Gwent seriously. No problem. We've got all the tips and tricks here for you. So while you are playing ranked games in Gwent, you're going to go from rank 30 down to rank 1, and then you can jump into pro rank after you've completed all your rank 1 mosaic. Now you need 5 wins to fully fill your mosaic, and then 1 more win will get you into that next rank. Once you get to pro rank, things change a little bit. To be able to fully qualify and fill up your score, your MMR, what you're going to need to do is play 25 games with each faction. Now, this is considered your placements. These are the bare minimums you really need to do to be able to get your MMR to a point where you can compete on the pro ranked ladder. Each win within pro rank will typically be worth about 7 MMR points. So a win would gain you 7 points, a loss would lose you 7 points, but that also depends on the strength of your opponent. If your opponent is ranked much higher than you, you are likely going to get more points for a win and lose less points for a loss, and the vice versa is also true. The pro rank player ratings take into account players participating all across Gwent. This will, as you can see on your home screen, conclude once the season ends. At the end of the ranked season, this MMR is reset, but not before you receive, first off, your keys for the rank you have achieved. Second off, the top 500 players in pro rank will remain in pro rank and not have their rank reset 3 levels. So if you are not in the top 500 in pro rank, you will go down to rank 3. Anybody in the top 200 will actually get crown points, which will make you eligible for the World Masters. And if you are within the top 64 or top 16, you will participate in qualifiers to once again earn a spot in the Gwent Masters series. When you are playing in your ranks, you do have a little bit of a buffer to help you grow and move towards pro rank. Within ranks 26 to 30, it is actually impossible to drop a rank. Once you get between 25 and 15, you will only lose a rank if you lose twice in a row. From rank 14 to 18, there's no special conditions. The progression follows a linear pattern. But once you get from rank 7 to 1, there is that continued linear progression. However, win streaks no longer give you additional pieces of your avatar.
I did everything. I won the games, but I didn't get to pro rank. Why?
You didn't get to pro rank, but you were at rank 1, won all your games? Well, I have a question for you. Did you click the button?
Which button?
The pro rank button.
There's a pro rank button?
Yes, there is a pro rank button. That means that you agree to the pro rank regulations. Once you are in pro rank, again, you have the ability to climb, to grow your MMR and play in the official Gwent series. And there are some conditions to that. You can find them in the options menu. Read through it or don't, but don't forget to click the button.
So, do I need to play 4 factions to rank up? Which ones?
So you do need to play 4 factions to rank up. To get to pro, you can actually play whichever faction you want. There is no limit to it. You can play your favorite one, game in and game out. Once you get to pro, you will then need to play 25 games with each of the 4 factions like we mentioned previously, and that is what will start to grow your MMR.
And is it expensive to play Gwent?
Compared to other card games, Gwent can definitely be played with no or very minimal monetary investments. If you are curious about where you should spend your money, if you drop back into our original video, our first video in this series, we will give you some details on how to smartly spend your reward points to make sure you get the most out of them, and also which tools, journey, starter packs, things like that are actually worth your money. So go take a look and it will give you some tips and tricks as to where to spend your cash if you decide you'd like to do so.
Okay, I still have some questions about resources. Can you please tell me how can I get more resources?
How can you get more resources? Just go buy them.
I thought you said Gwent wasn't expensive?
Fine. Be cheap about it. Don't spend money. It's all good. It's not like we wanted you to support CDPR or anything. But you'll be happy to know, honestly, that you do not need to spend money for these resources. You can get them in game. As I mentioned in our first video, we have a good amount of information about that, so we will link you there. And you can generally get enough resources to build a good collection simply by playing, finishing contracts, and spending keys in the reward book.
So should I spend the keys in the reward books then? And how?
How should you spend keys in the reward book? You really want us to do everything for you, don't you? Don't worry, we've got you covered. We have a link by our very own Bomblin, who has gone ahead and shown you exactly where you should be spending your reward points in the reward books to make sure that you get the most out of each and every point. So check out that link.
I have the resources. But which kegs should I buy? Which cards do I craft? And what faction do I play?
Ah, yes, these are all the burning questions. What should I buy? What faction should I play? All of that. Now, don't worry. We have covered all of that in previous videos. We'll link them here once again. The key to simplify all of this is pick a faction and invest in faction kegs. That is where you want to start, because focusing on one faction will allow you to grow a collection and make a very strong deck that will allow you to better progress. We mentioned previously you will need to play 4 factions once you get to pro rank, but that will give you lots of time to grow your collection, build your decks, and get there. So jump in, check out the documents we have linked below, check out the previous videos, and that should give you a great way to start to get your first deck built.
But how do I even get started with a faction?
So each faction actually has a starter deck that would be a nice place to jump off from. A lot of sites out there, you can check deck guides, beginner guides, things like that. They will show you the decks and how to upgrade them, because there are a few little tweaks you can do. But focusing on one faction will also make experimenting a little bit easier. Each faction, like we mentioned in our previous video, has its own style and its own keywords that you're going to want to focus on, and that will let you experiment a little bit more comfortably so that you know that you're really getting everything you need out of that faction.
Wait, you said I should buy kegs, but I have heard about prestige. What is prestige and how, and should I wait with opening my kegs? Can you please show me how I can find out my level, my prestige, and all these things?
Prestiging. Everybody wants to, a little bit more prestige. So that being said, it's actually a really great question. Every 60 level, your prestige goes up by 1. We'll go ahead and show you the 10 different prestige levels and what they can give you. Now, should you wait or not? There's some interesting stuff to look at here, because after your first prestige, you're guaranteed a rare card in your first 4 cards. This actually means you will get an additional rare card. So you'll get 1 rare card, and then your center card will still be either rare, epic, or legendary, so you will grow your collection more quickly. The thing is, you still need to build out a collection. You still need to grow your collection, your deck, and get more cards. So don't wait to open no kegs until rank 60 and you prestige. But I would definitely suggest once you start getting up there, maybe level 40, maybe level 50, start slowing down on opening kegs and save a few, because after that prestige occurs, you're going to get a little bit more value, whether that is more cards or just more cards to mill for scrap in each of your kegs. Can you find your level, your prestige, and all of that? No problem. You're going to find that on the welcome back screen from the first time you log into Gwent. So here you have your rank directly in front of you. To your right, your level and prestige. To the left, you're going to see where you're at on the journey quests, and directly in front of you, you're going to have your daily quests as well, what you need to complete today and what rewards you can get.
You just mentioned a journey. Is it worth buying?
Is Journey worth buying? Yes, I did just talk about Journey. It's a very good question. If you love cosmetics and you want to grow your collection more quickly with keys and things like that, I think it's great value. There's this wonderful Canadian streamer by the name of Christo. He has a fantastic video all about this journey specifically, and he does one for every journey, so check it out. We'll link this as well. You can find out all the details about Journey, what you get out of it, and if it's worth the cash.
So I have played few games, but I'm still a little confused. Can I ask a few questions about that? Like, for example, I locked my opponent's defender, but I still couldn't target units behind the defender. Why?
Still confused. This is video number 3, so by now you should be getting it. I'm kidding. I'm being a little bit harsh, but Gwent really is very unique in the sense of a card game. It's very different from some of those games you may play that have life totals and have mana curves and things like that. So I completely understand where you're coming from. Let's dive in and answer some of those gameplay questions for you. All right, lock an opponent's defender. Now, defender is actually not an ability that would be locked. A defender is a status. And now these are two different things. We're gonna go ahead and show you an example of what some of these statuses are that will not be able to be locked. So you have things like vitality or poison. These are statuses that stick to your units, but they can't be locked. They can, however, be purified. So you could purify a defender to remove that status. Same thing with a shield or a lock.
I had a different issue. Can you tell me why my card didn't work?
Why your card didn't work? I mean, there's quite a few reasons why. Did you actually read the card?
You're supposed to read what's on the cards? I thought I just slam them.
Maybe that's your problem. There can be many different reasons why the card didn't work as expected. Step 1, go back, read the card. Think of what we just mentioned about if something is a status or if something is an ability, because some of them can be locked, some of them will not be locked. That's a great place to start. Now, don't forget there are other things. You have certain cards that are row locked, so they need to be played on the melee or the ranged row. If you play them on the wrong row, they will not work. Keep that in mind. You can actually, in the settings, if it is not activated, have your row protection. Basically, the game will tell you if you're playing something on the wrong row and ask you if you are sure you want to do it. I would suggest leaving that on, especially if you are a beginner player. Don't forget to double check, is your card locked? If it is locked, then yes, its ability will not work. You also have certain conditions. So for example, if you see Bloodthirst 2, that means your opponent has to have 2 damaged characters on the board. So check to make sure the condition is actually in place when you are playing the card, and also make sure you have sequenced your cards correctly. Now, some cards rely on other cards to activate, and the way that Gwent looks at these cards at the end of your turn is from front row to back row, left to right. And it also goes from your side, opponent side, and then your side, opponent side. So you're doing front, back, back. Now keep all of this in mind, because that is going to be the different way your cards look at what else is on the board and act accordingly.
I have seen some other words being used that were not on the cards. Can you explain those?
You think I'm a dictionary, don't ya? Well, there are a lot of different words. We talked about status, we talked about defender and things like that. Now those keywords are going to be seen on cards and they are going to be able to be accessed in games, but you have other things. You have other cards, things like bleeding. No, this is a different type of bleeding. So this is what's going to happen where you win round 1 and you need to decide if you want to dry pass and play no cards and go into a longer round 3. Or if you want to begin to play cards in round 2 to either expend your opponent's resources, so for example, you may want to trade some of your lower value cards for some of their higher value cards, or you may think your deck and your hand is strong enough that you will actually win the game in 2 rounds and not even need to go to a 3rd round. So there are a few different options here, but that typically bleeding means I'm going to win round 1 and then continue to play cards into round 2. A dry pass. So I just mentioned that a dry pass is not playing a card in round 2 after winning round 1. So that means your deck, the way your hand is currently constructed or the way the matchup is set up, you actually don't want to play cards in round 2, want to draw the 3 additional cards for round 3 and have a longer round. A brick. A brick is a card in your hand that is essentially useless or something you would not want to play from hand. So there are certain cards, for example, Adrenaline Rush would be considered a brick in your hand if you have 2 units on both rows. You may also brick something like a thinning card, something like the Flying Redanian, which would automatically come out of your deck if you have 9 coins. Unfortunately, if it is in your hand, it will not be able to come out of the deck and you will have to actually take a turn to play it. A mulligan is simply swapping a card for another card. Typically before the round starts, you have 2 to 3 mulligans to take depending on who goes first. You also have certain cards like in Syndicate Eavesdrop, which will allow you to mulligan an additional card by drawing one and shuffling a card back. Somebody milling a card is essentially destroying a card in your opponent's deck. You may see something like Kingslayer, which will look at the top card of your deck and destroy it. There are archetypes that intentionally try and remove all the cards from your deck so you're not able to draw any, and therefore giving them card advantage. Something else that's really important is that if you play mill cards or a mill list, your opponent probably won't give you a GG because playing mill is kind of a dick thing to do.
GGs give me resources.
Exactly. GGs give you resources, so don't play mill. Clog or cloggers is basically the opposite of mill. These archetypes are both within Nilfgaard most of the time, and usually what you want to do is go ahead and shuffle cards into your opponent's deck. You're not shuffling the good cards, you're shuffling the bronze cards that are going to clog up their deck and limit their ability to draw good cards. Oh yeah, you probably won't get a GG for playing this either.
So if I destroy my opponent's deck, I don't get a GG. And if I give my opponent cards, I also then get a GG? Gwent's complicated.
A swarm deck is typically a type of deck that relies on having a lot of units on the board. So that means that you're going to fill the rows. You would be punished by a row punish card, for example, which damages everything on a row, or something that boosts or damages everything on the board. High rolling and low rolling essentially come down to RNG. A high roll is when RNG turns out really, really well for you. That Viper Witcher Alchemist goes ahead and steals your opponent's win condition, whereas low rolling is basically the RNG gods kicking you, telling you that no, you're not getting their win condition, you're going to get a garbage bronze from them. So high rolling, good. Low rolling, bad. A mirror match is essentially running into an opponent's list that is almost identical to yours. It can mean that, it can mean 2 decks that are very similar. It can also sometimes mean that you're playing against the same faction and same leader ability that you are using yourself. Netdecking versus homebrew. So typically a homebrew is a deck you go into the deck builder and you build it yourself. You go ahead and you throw your own 2 cents onto it, build it the way you like without any external influences. Now netdecking is quite the opposite. That would mean going on your favorite meta report, watching your favorite streamer and taking their list and making it your own by putting it in your deck builder and playing it yourself. Now you might go out there and people may speak negatively about netdeckers. Bandit Gang may have put out a video about netdecking. But I think to learn a game, to understand how certain cards and interactions work, and to learn what is strong, nothing wrong with netdecking. It will allow you to really get a good understanding of the game. So keep an eye out for everything out there that may help you build your lists.
What if some cards get nerfed? Can I get a refund for that?
No!
But why?
I know in some games like Hearthstone, you have a certain period of time to get a refund on nerf cards. One of the fun parts about Gwent is there is usually a balance patch every single month, which means cards change every single month, and it's not always clear that cards are getting nerfed or buffed. Sometimes they just get changed. It helps keep the game fresh, and since they change up to 60 cards every single month, and the game is already very generous, they can't go around giving refunds for them all. So keep that in mind when a card changes. Congrats, you just got what I would consider a new card.
You already mentioned seasons. What are those?
All right, talking about community questions. Yes, we talked about seasons. So seasons are essentially something that lasts for about a month. Not necessarily a calendar month, but they do more often than not align with the calendar. And what they are is a competitive season. So January, for example, is Season of the Wolf. The season will usually start within the first week or so of January and end towards the end of the month. And on top of simply having a competitive season, normally during that time period, you will also have a special set of 3 reward trees that come back every year. So if you are taking part in the season of the Draconid in August, you are going to have access to some of the seasonal reward trees for about a month. So go ahead, throw some resources in there, otherwise they'll only come back next month. Not to mention, within every season, if you finish in Pro, Top 500, Top 200, you actually get a special title as an additional reward, as well as the reward points for finishing in Pro.
What about patches and changes in the game?
So the beauty of Gwent is actually the changes that occur regularly in the game. I know I mentioned it, but almost every single month there is some sort of balance. Every once in a while, you will actually get a hotfix in the middle of the season, but more often than not, the devs want to give the players about a season to sort out the meta. At the end of that month, you're going to have balance changes that will either slightly tweak different cards, up a power, up a provision, things like that, or completely change abilities. And it's really interesting and it keeps the meta fresh. So there's really a lot to look forward to almost every month. You're also going to have multiple expansions in a year. Typically, you're going to see 2. And the way that works is instead of simply releasing 2 sets, the Gwent developers have decided going forward, these sets will be broken down into 3 separate mini sets. And that's going to once again keep the meta fresh. So let's throw the 2021 roadmap up there to give you an idea of what's going on. So you see a 12 card drop, you see 3 mini expansions, as well as a 4th that starts expansion number 8 in December. So you're going to get a lot of different cards and a lot of balance patches in between.
Who can help me improve my decks? And how can I get involved with the community?
Have I not helped you enough already?
But you're so mean. Is there anybody else who can help me?
So if I haven't, and that's totally cool, whatever, I don't take it personally or anything, you can jump into the Bandit Gang Discord. We actually have a beginner's corner where you can come ask all the questions you want, and you will get a variety of people who are going to be in that Discord willing to help you, some of our content creators, as well as some of our pro players. We actually even offer coaching to some of the new players if you want to learn some strategies and things like that. So you can go ahead and check out our website, teambanditgang.com, and get all the information from there as well. There are a ton of other resources. You can look at different teams. Most of them will post meta reports. You'll see a lot of content creators also posting decks on YouTube or other types of guides to help you learn how to play the game. There is a ton on Twitch, YouTube, Reddit, Twitter, and more. So don't hesitate to go out there and ask. The community is very, very friendly, unlike myself, and will be more than willing to help you if you have any questions.
Hey, thanks for all the answers. I still have one final question. Is this game even worth playing?
You watched a whole video about Gwent to ask me if it's worth playing? Go play some games, you tell me. Honestly, I think that Gwent is regularly updated, new cards are being added often, and you are rarely going to wait more than a moment or two for a game. The game is currently alive and well. The Gwent Masters series has been a very exciting esports avenue to drive in new players, as well as things like their expansion to Steam, as well as their expansion to mobile gaming. So you're going to have a lot of different ways to access the game. It has really included a lot of new players, and it's really an exciting time for Gwent. So I highly recommend getting into it. Doesn't take a lot. You don't have to spend money. You can earn a lot of these resources for free. So please do jump in, check it out, and let us know what you think of it. Come to our Discord. You can find us on Twitter and all the rest. Drop it in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe. We are releasing more and more beginners videos every couple of weeks to get you up and running in Gwent.
And we're doing another giveaway for a subscription to the Bandit Gang YouTube channel, and the winner is... Oh, exciting! Woo! The winner is... It's you! Woohoo! You just activate that subscription down below. Congrats!